Welcome to the Non-Standard Podcast. I'm your host, Manny Lampson. If this is your first time listening or your 50th time listening, this is what to expect on this episode. We dive into the concepts of developing your leadership toolbox. Why do you need this? You need this in any situation to help manage, lead, and control, and ultimately win. How do you do that? You can't use the same form of leadership in everything you do. So every episode, we dive into my leadership philosophy. We dive into the story and the background of the person we're talking to. And we also dive into some leadership traits I have accrued throughout the years. And then we also follow it up with a book review at the end. So you're getting a wide range of leadership topics and traits that you can add to your kit. So without further ado, let's go into the recap of this episode. And afterwards, if you love it, like it, share it, follow it, give us some feedback because we're only just getting started. That's right. On this episode of the Non-Standard Podcast, I am joined with my first Marine, and I'm super pumped because I just love the ethos of the Marines in the Army, honestly. So I got Dom with me today. He's the first sergeant in the Marines. He's in a small unit here at Dyess Air Force Base, so there's not a lot of them. And we have met throughout the past few years with a mutual friend through a rucking team I do and the MIC-MAP that they put on. And you guys are going to be blown away by this episode. We hit almost every leadership topic there is. From how important a father figure is in your life for his sons to become a better role model. We hit how to be an active listener. We hit relationship is key, leading by example, feedback. Whatever your passion is, that's your purpose. So many great areas. And I look forward to feedback from you guys on what you took away from this episode. And as always, I will leave in the show notes the books we talk about and how you can reach out to Dom and how you can share this episode as well. All right, in less than a minute, let's get going. All right, we're live. We're rolling back with another episode. Just like you guys heard on the intro, I'm with my man, Domonic Williams. He'll go into a little bit about what he does more in detail. But if you haven't heard before or you've listened to my episode, we always start with the same thing, the 3 H's. And it's hometown, heroes, and hardship. And the reason we do this is to let those listening and also myself, because this is our first time really talking. We talked a little bit in your office, but that was pretty quick. But it also helps me get to know you and the listeners as well. So, my man, feel free to drop us with the 3 H's. What do you got?
All right. Good morning. It's First Sergeant Williams, aka Dominic. I am from Beaufort, South Carolina originally, but I'm a military brat. My father was in the Marine Corps as well. I grew up in Jacksonville, North Carolina, in the Camp Lejeune area, and went back and forth from home to Lejeune. So Beaufort, South Carolina, back to North Carolina a few times. My heroes, I noticed you have two, but I can only think of my dad is the hero I got in my life. He's like my staple. That's my right-hand man. And for my hardship that I've been through, currently thinking back before we talked about doing this, I had to think about, I've been through multiple hardships. We all have. But the one that stems from my childhood was not having a good relationship with my father. And then we'll talk about that throughout the show, but you kind of understand how that got me to where I am right now at this moment.
So I will throw out, I did get to go to South Carolina last year for my deployment over to Sumter Shaw. I did travel a lot over there. I really loved it, man. It was so I'm from Washington State. I grew up there for about 8 years, and I brought my family out to Charleston and South Carolina and Charlotte. And the reason I loved driving over there is it's like driving in Washington with all the trees but no hills, which was nice.
Yep.
But, man, it's beautiful out there.
Man, I miss it. I like the Texas vibe, though. I'm a country boy, but Texas, I like it, man. Abilene is just hot.
It's warm
Abilene
right
is
now.
hot, boy. For real. Abilene is scorching.
Yeah, for those listening, we are recording a day after, what was it, the hottest record in Abilene temperature of 113 degrees yesterday?
Yes, extremely.
So I've been telling a lot of people, this is probably the most consistent hot weather I've seen in Abilene. I've been here for 9 years. Usually you get like spurts, like you'll get a cold front, it'll cool down. But man, it's been, I think, 100 about 2 weeks straight, if not more.
Yeah. Every day, man. I'm like, what's going on? I got here last year. It was a spurt. It was about like 2 weeks, and then it kind of went down. It's August, isn't it? Yeah, so yeah, man. I'm like, what's going on? But hey, here we are. Hydration is key.
So I'll ask, are you a Panthers fan or Who do you root for in the NFL? I know you guys been
Man,
through some rough years, but
yeah, we've been rough, man. I wouldn't say I'm a Panthers fan, but from the Carolinas, I don't know. I just we see what they got going on, like whatever. But hey,
yeah, that's where I'm at being a Pats fan right now. Obviously, I lived through the greatest dynasty in football history, so right now I'm sort of like, is this what it's like to be a normal football fan? Like, I
you got
barely
to get
watch
used
a
to it.
game. I
Yeah, you got to get used to it now. Say,
It's
hey,
hard. It's really
it
hard.
is.
Well, cool. I appreciate you. You know, talking about your dad. You know, as your hero. And you are not the first one that I've had on my podcast where their hero has been their dad. It's a reoccurring theme, and I love it, especially in a time where I think there was like a period in the past, like maybe 10, 15 years, where that sort of fatherly figure wasn't as strong, like the media portrayed fathers and really strong role models as too masculine, so there was like this little dive, and I've seen it sort of bounce back up in culture, where father figures are starting to revamp themselves and come back out a little bit more. But it's always great to hear the dads as their heroes, just like it is with my dad. He, like we're still really good friends today, like we barbecue every weekend. He's like my son's friend, he's taking my son to the Rams and Houston's game this weekend. So it's really cool to see that connection still live on. So whenever I hear people bring up their father, it's just like that, it's cool and it's good. But you talked about him being in the Marines. So obviously you
Yeah,
being in the
man.
Marines, was that one of the reasons you joined? And that's always a question I love to ask, it's like, why did you join? What? Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm glad you said it about the fathers, man, because society is really there's a generation that's fatherless. And I'm glad that you have been talking to people that are saying, yeah, my dad is my hero, because I believe that every son should their hero should be their father. I mean, if he was doing what he's supposed to do, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, my dad was in the Marine Corps for 28 years. He retired as a sergeant major. And it's a funny story why I joined. Originally, they said no to joining the Marine Corps because the war was going on at the time. When I was 17. So my mom was like, no, I'm not signing. He's not going to war. So my dad said, hey, your mom said no. And, some things transpired after that. I turned 18. And then one day I was home and I was like, I had kind of a funny story happened between all of us, my parents and me. And then I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm leaving. I need to leave. Because I'm just sitting here after high school, no plan, nothing, no college. And yeah, the recruiter came over 2 weeks later. I was gone, February 14th, 2006. Then 3 months later, I never looked back. I've been going ever since. So, as you know, I'm a first sergeant now. That came me on before I got here to Texas, and our relationship has took off ever since years ago, because I started to understand the traits and the leadership principles that he was trying to instill in me as a young man, but I didn't want to because I was a rebellious kid. I was like, no, I'm like, this guy's always going, he's trying to tell me what to do. But now I understand the deployments, the TDYs, the TADs, the training evolutions. I understand that now. He tried to do his best with the time he had. And me being the oldest, I had to learn a little bit differently. So he was definitely a big staple for me joining. Once I did, I saw a change in him. He was like, okay, he's out there doing things that I can be proud of him for, because, our family came from South Carolina. They didn't have the most money. He had to join, with my mom and me when I was a baby. And now, he had a great successful career, and following in his footsteps.
Man, there's a couple great things you said there that I'll recap on. We enlisted very similar. I enlisted in March 2006, so that's when I enlisted, a year after high school. Obviously, almost in my dad's footsteps. He was in the Air Force. I joined the Air Force. Originally, I was going to join the Army because when I was in high school, the recruiter came. I was pretty vague and blind to the military per se. I didn't really know the different branches. The recruiter just came and I was like, hey, Dad, I think I'm going to join the Army. He was sort of like, hey, maybe join the Air Force. So that's how that happened. But my dad was in the Air Force as well, and that helped spark that interest. So there's a book, I'll just throw it out right there, that I just finished reading. It's called Raising a Modern Day Knight. My friend recommended it to me, and what you talked about, a father should always be their son's role model and hero, is like, dude, it's true. And the book there's so much biblical references to it as well. It's the way a son is built, or mature or grows up, like that's who they look up to every day of their life. As far as what to expect from a role model, a father, a friend, a leader is their dad. And so that struck a chord with me because I just got done reading that book. My friend and I are actually looking to start a nonprofit in Abilene where it's basically a better version of the Boy Scouts, where we want to create a father and son like bonding organization that builds relationships between fathers and son and keeps them strong and is raising stronger sons, but also building stronger fathers. Mm-hmm. And so I'll keep you in the loop of it as well. It's a pretty cool thing. And you talked about it, and I was like, man, it's just great to hear other people talk about it and see that reference and see the impact it has on your life. And so, yeah, thank you for talking about that. But yeah, we listed around the same time. Yeah, and that's what I got to cover there. So that was good.
Yeah, but 2006, man, I'm with my 19 years, and it's coming up in February, and God has blessed me to stay around this far. So we talked briefly, when you came by, but I'm going for the sergeant major. You know what I'm saying? Stick around because I feel like a lot of these young Marines, whatever you want to call them, in each branch, they don't have that father figure, that role model. You know what I'm saying? And I think ever since I've been here, I've done a lot of mentoring and coaching. That's what I love to do. So I see a lot of these guys that didn't have father figures growing up. They kind of gravitate toward me, and we got a lot of things in common. And I can see the potential in them, but I push them, and they do great things. So I love that feeling. It's not because of me. It's because they always had that inside of them, and you kind of help them unlock it.
Yeah, it's great to see people unlock it. It's a huge passion of mine as well. That's why I love helping the airmen here. And for me, I help them pretty easy. I just help them go on rucks. And when I do, they unlock what they're capable of, and it opens up so much more doors to how far they can push themselves in the workplace. And more the physical side, because, for those not listening, you're a Marine stationed on an Air Force base, so it's a little different, like you probably don't wake up with the rise and grind of PT, every day with guys running around the base, hooting and hollering. It's probably pretty quiet, a little different for you. So how's that shift for you?
Hey, this morning though, man, I'm not gonna lie, we did have PT with the Air Force today. We did McMath. We did the Marine Corps martial arts.
Yeah, Gonzo. Yeah. I saw that email that you guys got a little group going on.
Yeah, so we had a group show up today, about 25 plus airmen. They did a shamrock drill. They did an intro to combat conditioning. They did bugle stick bouts, 2-on-1, 1-on-1, and they got tie in at the end. That's all like our leadership philosophy with the character disciplines and the why, what's in it for them, or why they just went through what they did. A team building exercise, and it was actually a great day this morning. So this is actually a perfect day to do the podcast. The airmen got out of their comfort zone today. They saw other airmen take the charge, take lead as a unit leader, and help them through. It was kind of like a makeshift battle. You know what I'm saying? Like they had to take charge, make sure everybody's online, make sure everybody did the exercise together, motivated one another. They made sure everybody was hydrating, made sure they had the gear, and it was great to see like the airmen out of their comfort zone. I can tell they didn't usually get up in front of one another and speak, but due to the fog of war, they had to in order to complete the mission. So that was a great thing to see. But coming to the Air Force Base, I was like, man, there's nobody out here PTing. There's no hoorah, but I've been building rapport with a lot of the first shirts here and a lot of the airmen. So now they're coming over to get that type of training. So another major reached out to me yesterday. I'm going to be training their flight, and it's a great thing, to do some joint training and to see how the Air Force conducts things and for them to see how we do things. And my Marines are loving it. They're in a leadership position already. We train them from the ground up. So E3s are leading E3s, E2s are leading E2s, a senior lance corporal is leading, an E4 is a leader, a corporal. They're leading these Marines in squads and fire teams. So that's something that we are showing the Air Force. And they're like, yeah, these young men and women out here are leading everyone. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be an E5, E6. Everybody's leading.
Man, that's what I really love when I have Army and Marine leaders on my podcast, because your guys' leadership ethos and all that is instilled so young in the career. And I love that you guys are, showing the Air Force side, like it's needed. Like I've said it before on my podcast, the Air Force is very much structured in a technical business aspect, you know. The
Yes, yes,
airmen
it
come
is.
in as an E1, E2, and they're really just doing a job. They're doing tasks day by day. They're not necessarily leading a team. They're just really doing a job. They don't as much lead until they're E4s or E5s. Maybe, probably E4s, E5s. That's when they start leading. And so it's almost too late, but, you know, it's never really too late to lead. They can always lead whenever. And that's why I love when I get you guys on, because you're like, oh, we have fire teams. We're leading in these small groups as E2s and E1s and E3s with our peers, you know, and we're building that up and we're motivating each other. But what I've loved in the past few years of this relationship we've built with you guys is you came to this base and you've sort of taken what you do and you've brought it to the Air Force. And I've seen the shift on Dias. I've seen a lot more active airmen. I've seen a lot more that younger generation right now want that need to do that hard stuff, get uncomfortable, challenge themselves, because they've seen they're capable of doing it, and when they do better things.
Yep.
And so that's why I wanted you on, and that's why I love keeping in contact with you. And we met through Gonzo, because Gonzo's a good friend of mine through the rucking program. He went through your MICMAP, and he's been crushing it. And so we're just spreading.
Yeah, it's that, brother. I'm so glad that we crossed paths, because Gonzo has been a staple for the Marine Corps Martial Arts program on Dias. And when I met him, he went through my first course. And he's only one of the only two airmen on the base with his Marine Corps Martial Arts instructor status, and they'll probably be the only two.
Yep.
So he took it around with it, and there's so many airmen that have come, and they're coming to help us with tours for tots. They're coming to help us with
Yep.
just things that we need around the base when we do funeral honors or any community relations. And like you said, it stems from there. It stems from challenging yourself, getting uncomfortable, saying, "Hey, I can really do this. What else can I do? Let me push my body a little bit more." And then, it's a mindset. It's not all about the physical. It's about the mental state of that individual. So once they get it in their mind that they can do something, and they keep challenging it, and they continue to grow. From there, they continue to mentor. They got another airman, another Marine next to them. They can mentor that Marine, and so on and so forth.
Now, is that mindset instilled early in the Marine culture, or do you develop so, you know, like what's it like early on in a Marine's career? Is it very heavy leadership, or, you know, like educate me?
So I would say, just in recruit training, it's instilled from the day you get to recruit training. It's like, hey, you are going to follow these orders, because you'll be the one giving the orders if you stay in long enough. If you stay in and do what you need to do, and you get promoted, and that way the Marine Corps says, hey, we can trust him or her with these Marines under their care, because the promotion one, it states, you know what I'm saying, these Marines will be under your charge. When you get promoted to this rank, everybody under you needs to listen to you. It needs to be a lawful order. So we're preparing them, even in recruit training, like, hey, instant and willing obedience to orders. And once they learn how to follow instructions, they get promoted, then they can be a leader, so on and so forth. So I think it's from the ground up. We instill it from recruit training. Then once you get into the Fleet Marine Force, you have those NCOs that are already there, ready to take you in, to kind of show you the ropes. And then you kind of emulate them, and you take bits and pieces from what you like or you don't like. Then you reach the NCO level. Then you got your staff NCOs that you're kind of under, and you're the right hand man or woman. They're like, okay, I like what staff sergeant's doing. I like what they don't do. You take that. Then you get your staff NCO promotion if you stay in long enough. Then you're junior staff NCO. Then you got your senior staff that kind of takes you under their wing, and they kind of mentor you, and you can become a leader. But throughout this process, you're taking bits and pieces of what you like and dislike and building your leadership style. Then you got your way up top, you got your E8s and E9s. You don't really see them as much, but you do get interaction. You see the way they lead, how they speak, how they articulate their words, if they're educated, if they're not educated, if they show up. You start to notice things from the ground up. So that's it in a perfect world. But we all know there's so many factors dealing with, a young Marine coming up through the ranks, a young airman, so on and so forth. Things might deter them and they want to get out, at that first 4 years. But all in all, we want to take that Marine, that young man or woman, and make them a better civilian when they get out of the armed services.
Yeah, there's two things that you hit that I really loved, and I've seen it a lot from your branch is the following orders aspect of the Marine ethos. You got to do what you're told first, and then you sort of work your way up. We've seen this generation, really be big on the whys, right? Hey, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? But there has to be times where you just do what you're told. Like that's just what you have to trust the person giving you the orders, that it's rightful, it's willful, it's correct. You go do the mission, you execute, and then maybe after, you can follow up with, hey, sir, I know you wanted me to do it like this. I did it. Here's something I can do better. And that's what I always appreciate when I work with my joint forces is I guess I'm very used to having, when I give directions to an airman or something, and I always feel like I have to explain to them why they're doing it, and it takes a little bit longer. But then there's times where I'm just like, man, I just need you to go execute. Trust me on this. It'll work. And then, we'll build the rapport after. So there was that. And then the second thing you mentioned was the aspect of learning from your peers on how to be a better leader. That's really cool because it's not taught. And I've heard it on a previous podcast. I had someone on there. They said, hey, if you want to be a better leader, just look around you. Emulate the people that are doing well. Don't do what the people are doing that are doing bad, and use that. And so you hit it. You said it like 4 or 5 times. Like we teach them how to look at the E4s and E5s above them, take what they don't like, take what they do like, look at the E8s. And so just to hear that is it's great. It's great that it's just always there. There's always ways to. There's never a dull time in leadership for you guys. You're either learning, or you're executing, or you're getting better, which is great.
And the thing about it is the willing obedience to orders, the why. This is the why generation. And when we both came in, we know, hey, Lamson, hey, Williams, get this done. Copy, I'm on it. Now, I think, it grows with leadership. I'm kind of glad that you brought this up. I'm glad that it changed because our mindset when we came in, the war was still going. We got to get these things done. You know what I'm saying? We had these combat vets come back and they're leading us. Now we have the generation that's, they're not in the military for the war. They're in there for education. What's in it for me? That's why they're in. And now we've been in long enough. We have that experience where we can take the time and explain it. And I think that's a good thing because we didn't have an opportunity to get it explained to us.
Yeah.
We just knew, here, I'm going to get it done. And then they might say, hey, good job. This is what I want you to do. And you're like, I did it anyway. Now when I get a E4 or whatever, say, first of all, why we got to do this? So you know what? That's a good question. This is why we're doing this. But understand there'll be times in my tone or depending on the situation, if I say, hey, Lance Corporal so-and-so, go over there and do X, Y, and Z. All I need to hear is good to go first and get it done. I don't have time to be explained everything. So I think it's a great day as leaders for us to explain to our subordinates. And learning from our peers and from the hires, as far as that goes, I think that's what every leader should kind of hold on to because they see we've all had bad leaders, all of us. There's no one that can never say in the civilian sector or the armed forces that they never had a bad leader. That person that's complacent, that person that's been burnt out, that person that's just there for the money, and they're trying to just get by to the retirement or do what they do. And you're kind of like looking like, man, why is this person like this? You probably don't know the full story, but they're not training you the way you need to be trained. Because if you're taking their spot, they're just like, yeah, man, we usually do it like this. No, I don't want it like this. How do you do it the correct way so I can make this program or this course of action better? And they're just not trying to give it to you, And that's what we have in the armed forces and civilian sector. The guy or the lady taking over for them is like, yeah, they just leave. Or sometimes you don't get a turnover. So you're there asking questions. You're trying to reach out to everybody to make this your own because you're responsible.
So I'll ask you a question, and then I'll follow on. If it's not what I was going to say, but I think it will be, how do you develop that, hey, if I tell you to go get this done, go get it done, mindset and relationship with people like below you? How do you do it?
For first, what I've noticed in my leadership style, I'm very personable with my Marines. They know that I mean business, and they know like, hey, first, hey, let's go get it done. I'm not. I think it's a fine balance because we can be a firm and fair leader, but you don't have to be, as we call it, Marine Corps buddy with your subordinates. You don't. That's not your job. My job is to come, protect, and make sure I'm taking care of you and your family if you have one. And if I'm saying things in a certain tone, or if you feel some type of way, let me know. I'll adjust my tone. Yeah, but if I'm saying something, that means get it done. I don't need questions because depending on the severity of the situation. But I like to build relationships with all my peers, all my subordinates. I like to listen first and foremost. I love to be an active listener because that's what I learned. When I was coming up through the ranks, a lot of my leadership did not listen to the problems that were going in the company. So they didn't know what to tell the CEO or the XO about what's going on with the Marines. And then that does not build trust at all. How are you going to build trust with the Marines if you're not presenting the situation the right way to the CEO or the sergeant major in order to get them help? So when the Marines know that you have their back, I can say, hey, go take that trash out and go take that trash. I can and they'll go do it. They won't even ask because they know that I have their best interest. So if you're a leader and you're not trying to take care of your subordinates or your young airmen or Marines, they're going to know. They're not going to have that certain respect. Yeah, they might have respect for the rank sometimes. But there's going to be a time where you need something. Hey, I need this done for you. Can you go ahead? And they got good to go first, and they go do it. I've been on both sides. I've seen it. I've seen the Marines rebel. I'm not doing that for him. But I've seen a leader that stayed late with the Marines, picked the Marines up after hours because they were drunk or something like that. And they'll jump through hoops for that Marine. Hey, first one needs this. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna do it. Because they know they know who to look out for. Everybody does. Because they know if you're faking the funk.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna call you out soon. You can only be yourself, that first impression, and you want to come out all high and mighty, and then they'll look right through that. They know you're not genuine. So once they know who you are as a leader, they know you don't want to listen, they know you don't want to help them, then they're like, okay, whatever.
You hit a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot, but I've seen it. 18
Yeah.
years of this leadership, drill instructor, all these things I've been through.
Yeah, just for those listening, I love recapping on like these little spurts because I don't want people to miss things. And I'm going to recap on what you said because there are a lot of important parts. One, you did answer my question. It comes down to relationships. Every podcast I have, every new airman I build relationships with, it makes me understand relationships is the key to everything. Like it's the problem solving to anything ever is building relationships with people. Once you build the relationships through trust, being genuine, being there for them, helping them, getting dirty with them, man, they will go to war for you.
They will. They will.
And so yeah, you hit relationships. You got to build the relationships, right? You can't just fake it. There are a lot of people who will try to fake it just to get people to do things, and like you said, they're gonna know. Everybody knows when you're not intentful or genuine with them. And so it's just going to backfire. You talked about working with them. And that was one of the questions I'll have you answer is how do you build those relationships? And you already mentioned a couple of them. Hey, if you got to stay late, sometimes you got to do it. If you're helping them, picking them up as a DD, you got to do it. What are some other easy ways for those listening to help build relationships? For maybe some new leaders out there who are like, man, I want to build relationships with people. How else can I do it? What are some simple ones?
So here's some really simple ones that we do that I've always been taught since I was a young man. Uh, Getting your Marines awards or your Airman awards if they deserve them. It's going to bat for the Marine. Situation, me and I recently, they tried to downgrade an award for one of our guys, and we said no. This Marine raced this award, and we want to request that this stays at this level. And we talked it out, and we got the Marine award awarded. Another thing is holding cookouts at the shop. Everybody let's bring a potluck. Let's take a break from work. Let's have an hot pause. Let's get to know one another. Let's go to the field, play soccer. Let's go play football for PT. Let's all go volunteer together. Let's go volunteer at the church. Let's go paint the house. Let's do something together if you have time. Hey, bring your family in. Get to know their families. Act like you care. Or not act like, but actually care. Like,
Yeah.
go, hey, how's your wife doing? How's your spouse doing? Hey, we want to bring all the spouses in. We want to let them know what we do, and if they need anything from us, we want you all to call us. Sometimes you got to burn the midnight oil, like I stated earlier. You have to come in with your Marines. Sometimes you got to go pay a visit to their house because they have issues. They need to feel comfortable with telling you, Hey, first one, I'm having this idea. And you're like, okay, close the door. But what is this idea about? And they kind of tell you, and you're like, okay, what can we do? What can I do to help you? And they say, you know what? This is what you can do. And then you move on from there until that's resolved. There's things that we as leaders, like I see when in your philosophy says to be selfless, you have to be selfish. You have to know your Marine. You have to know who you're dealing with. Sometimes it's good to be selfless. Actually, all the time. But in order to be selfless, you have to know you. You have to take some time, know who you are as a leader. Say, what can I do to better myself? What constructive criticism or feedback can you all give me as your first sergeant that I could do better? That way, now, I'm being selfish here. Give me feedback so that way you can make me a better leader because I'm here to work for you. And once I seen, my dad was always like that. He was always gone as a sergeant major, first sergeant. I'm like, what is this dude doing? But I go to work with him. I was in the Marine Corps at the time. He's there with the Marines, having potlucks, having my mom cook macaroni and all this chicken and stuff for the squadron, having all these big events. And I'm like, okay. And these Marines would do anything for my dad, anything. He didn't even want a retirement. They made him have retirement because the Marines wanted to stay in formation and do all those things for him. But I understood where they're coming from because he was that guy that's there on the weekend. He was that guy on Sunday, PTing with the Marines that were overweight. You know what I'm saying? Like these are things we have to do in order to build those relationships and with the Marines and their families. Maybe the spouse is not feeling comfortable about the unit, and you as a first sergeant in the OIC, you all didn't make contact with the spouse and let them know that hey, we're there, we're here for you. What you need from us. Granted, in a bigger unit, it's not going to be possible, but here in my area of operation at the I&I, we know all the spouses, we know all the kids, we know everything about everybody. It's like all the events, we invite everyone. We take pictures. We break bread together. We care about the families, and the Marines know that we do. So they call me, even though I'm TDY, they'll call me and update me on something, you know? So if they need help, they say, hey, can we talk? Or they'll come over after working hours, we'll have a conversation. So they know that they're our first priority because it matters about the Marines.
Yeah. Well, what I want people to realize is what you said isn't rocket science to build relationships. A lot of people think it's like there's like a really hard way to build relationships, but it's not. What you mentioned is not difficult, really. Like being there for them, getting to know them, appreciate them. That is huge. We as humans want to be appreciated, even if it's just a high five or a good job at the base level. Some
Yep.
people may not be able to write the awards, but if you're at that level and you can, you should be fighting for I say airmen, those below you to win.
Hmm. You
But
should.
appreciation is huge. It goes such a long way. There's a
Everybody wants
book
to be
called The High Five
appreciated.
Habit I read, and it's amazing, just like high fiving somebody or just saying good job. Like that it's way overlooked. Um,
Hmm.
you talked about cookouts, that your dad did, and my dad did that when I was a kid too. And you said it earlier where you're like, I didn't realize a lot of this stuff my dad was teaching me, early on in my life, which we don't as kids and teenagers until I run a podcast and I'm like, man,
Yeah.
my dad did this. My dad taught
Yep.
me this. My dad taught me that. Like my dad worked at a business and he was gone a lot of weekends for church, cooking early in the morning before church. He was doing breakfasts for my basketball teams when they'd come in or visiting. And, at the time I didn't think much of it, like, why is he doing this? Is it so he can, I guess, be more popular in town? I think that's what I was thinking. But now I do it. I cook breakfast for the airmen here on Saturday after we work out. I've cooked barbecues for my airmen in an AFE flight. And every time I do, I'm always like, man, I know why my dad did this. It's
Yes.
they open up to you, they get to know you, because it is hard for some leaders to be in a shop and get to know somebody because if you have rank or you're an officer or enlisted or you're just a supervisor, it can be very tough. So you have to get to know them sort of outside the workplace. And I think that's where a lot of it starts. PT, you mentioned PT is a great place because you're sweating together, you're grinding together, you're building that relationship there. They're easy. Lunches, man, just take that time, go somewhere else. Barbecues, weekends. Yeah, so those are all just phenomenal. I'm going to throw this question out right now before I forget, since we're already rolling.
Hmm.
It's going to be off topic, but that's great. We already talked about it before. As a leader, how do you take the time to rest for yourself? So you talked
Oh
about it
yeah.
before we recorded, and I wanted to make sure I bring it up, even though we're on this other great path. But I just want to shift gears and get this question answered because it's a great one. It's hard for a leader to take time. When I say time, time away, like time off. So why and how?
It is, Manny, and I don't know. I grind it out. My dad grinded it out, man. So I've been my career, man. I've taken leave quite a bit, but now, I'm so locked in. I'm so for the Marines. I told you before we recorded, I was like, hey, I told you originally I was going to leave for a week, but then I
Yeah,
extended it because this was my first time actually just to say, hey, I'm going to reset, I'm going to readjust. I love my Marines. I love what I got going on here, but I need some me time because I'm in college as well. I'm pursuing my master's, and it gets kind of overwhelming sometimes. But you want to take care of your guys and girls, and I said, you know what, this is it. I need to take leave. I need to because I'm at a point in my life where I'm pouring so much out, and this is probably why a lot of leaders don't do what we just talked about as far as leadership and cooking out. It's tiring at times. It's time consuming. It's
it's
tedious.
hard to be a good leader. I'll say that it is not
It,
easy. Like
it's
it is
not easy.
hard.
Yeah, it's not. And I think that's why a lot of people are not good leaders because I'm not saying I'm the best, but when you put out and you
Yeah,
want a great product in your shop or your work section, you have to sacrifice.
yeah,
And I've been here grinding for a year and a half straight. Like I've been on leave a couple times, probably like 7 days or eight. But this time I took the 2 full weeks, and I'm like, man, I got up the other day. I felt so refreshed. Like, and we did McMap today. And then, the Marines like, man, first time you back, finally. We started joking on each other. That's what we do in the Marines. But, we got back to hitting the ground running. We got an event tonight over at the Abilene Convention Center. So I came back just in time. I'm adjusted. I see things clearly. I'm rested. My mind is able to, take things in. I'm able to come up with a plan of action. Like you hit me up for the pot. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I can finally do it because at the time I don't think I could have given you these
yeah.
responses when we originally. Now I'm seeing things a little bit more clear, and I took the 2 weeks, and then my ORC was like, yeah, man, it's about time you took some leave because I'm always working. I'm a workhorse, man. So I was able to uh, I usually get up and work out. I'm reading a lot of books. We talked about earlier. I'm really into Christian apologetics. And that helps me with my leadership as well. And now I feel like, man, it's mandatory for a great leader, a good leader, to take some time off because you need it. We afford Marines time off all the time. We always tell them, hey, go with
Yeah.
your family, go, go, go. But what about us? We're in office, we're writing paperwork, we're trying to get these Marines promoted, we're trying to get these awards authorized and approved, we're trying to make sure travel is getting done. Government travel charge cards are getting paid off. These things that we're supposed to do, it starts to stack up. But what about our personal lives? And I think that's where a lot of Marines we get there's not a healthy balance. So now I'm an advocate for it. Like, hey, you can take some time off. Work is fine; it's going to get done. But hey, family is priority.
Yeah, it's not just the Marines. I've seen it on the aviation flyer side in the Air Force where sometimes when you take leave, it's almost like people are judging you in the military. Sometimes when you take leave, they think like, "Oh, you don't want to be at work or you don't want to do this." Like, bro, no, like I love my leave. I never have probably more than like 20 days of leave saved up. Like I'm always just taking leave. And I've seen it be, presumed as like, oh, he doesn't want to work or, he's always
Hmm.
taking leave. But, I look at where I'm at. I'm not burnt out. I'm, in a great mental and physical spot of my life, because I was able to take time and advantage of that leave. And it's funny when people don't take leave. It's like, dude, the military's literally giving you this time to take for a reason because they
Yeah,
know people will burn out if they don't take it. So we
yeah,
give you these days for yourself to recharge. And, like it's definitely a trait that leaders talk but don't walk. And
exactly.
so, it is hard to take leave as a leader because if you care and you want your team to win, you want to be there. You want to make sure everything's going smooth. But sometimes, you have to make sure your ship's not going to sink if you leave.
And
You
that's
know,
that's
like
a that's a healthy balance, bro. There was one point in my career I had 90 leave days.
that's crazy.
It was right. It was so bad. It was so bad. Like before I got here for my lump sum leave, I sold back 60 days of leave. And this was at year 16, 17. I had 90. I never took leave, but partly because I was in Okinawa and you couldn't really go anywhere anyway. And then I did drill instructor shortly after that. You're not taking leave anyway. But then I started to just grind it out. And, and a lot of those, thinking back down when we're doing this, I was really like overwhelmed. I'm like, what am I doing? I have leave, but I'm not taking it. So now I just took these 2 weeks. I'm like, I understand that. I get it. We got leave on the books, you can take it because I'm at the point now, you're seeing enlisted leader or advisor. You can take a couple of days here, but you still have your laptop. You still working.
Yep.
You can call leave all you want to. I've still got my laptop online, checking my emails and doing what I need to do. And I don't mind it at all. I don't.
Yeah, like I'm on baby leave and I have my laptop here and I check it, every now and then. And I usually bring my laptop home when I'm on leave. And that's just, it makes me feel comfortable. Usually
Yeah.
sometimes,
Mhm.
Oh, dang. But yes, I think the time, and you've already hit that leadership philosophy. To be selfless, you have to be selfish. Like take that time to yourself, focus on yourself, and that's why that's why it's my second leadership philosophy. We'll dive into them right now. So my first one is lead by example in all you do. To be selfless, you have to be selfish. Build relationships based off trust and care. Challenge the road in front of you, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. We've already hit really all four of them, but you've already mentioned relationships. You've mentioned getting uncomfortable. You've mentioned the selfish one. Let's talk about leading by example because for those listening, let's say there's somebody out there who doesn't know how or maybe understand it. What are some good examples of leading by example that somebody could take out and execute on after this?
Just leading by example, knowing your personnel and knowing yourself as well, and seeking self-improvement. I can't tell my personnel, hey, you better do X, Y, and Z, and I can't do it as well.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to lead from the front. If you know that you're the best on the aviation side of this, uh, teach them how to do it. Hey, this to get to this level, this is what I did. Right? Leading by example can be with anything, just public speaking or just having a guided discussion. If you know that your airmen or Marines are not really outspoken individuals, uh, you should probably say, hey, in order for us to be great leaders, we're going to need to be able to communicate effectively and teach them how to do so. So know your personnel and say, hey, these are the things that I know I see that you're not the best at, and what can we do to kind of get you to this level? And they'll be honest with you, and you say, hey, this is what I see. You could train them up until and they can spread their wings and they can fly and do what they want to do.
So,
That basically is my leading by example for
so out of
humanity.
those four, which one do you feel very comfortable at, and which one do you think you need to work on? And if you have to work on it, how would you improve?
So you want the one I feel most comfortable with?
Yeah.
Deep man, this fly feel great. Golly, I think the one I'm good at. Number one, me personally, is building relationships based on trust and care. I think it's very, very important as a leader because of the way I grew up in the Marine Corps, nobody cared. They didn't care about what you eat. They were like, so what? It was like nobody cares. That's just the way things were. And now we cannot treat our youngins or subordinates like that. We need to show care. We need to build that trust because they're the ones doing the work. We are just supervising. And that affects your performance evaluation, your fit rep. That affects you. If the Marine's not getting things done, what is going on? First Sergeant, what's going on? Captain Sergeant, what's going on? And then you got to go hear from higher about that. And the one that I need to work on, I'm being totally honest with myself. I think I could do a better example of leading by example. There's some things that I find myself like, I need to do a little bit more. That way I can hold my Marines accountable. I'm not the best at everything. I'm not 100% this. No, I tell Marines, hey, I need feedback. I'm an active listener. I want you to tell me, person, I don't think you did good at this. What can I do to fix that? And then, we have a dialogue. And I think that's important for us as leaders to sit down with our subordinates and our peers and say, hey, give it to me. What do I need to do? I need you to set something clear for me. Give me your vision and communicate with me effectively. That way I know how I can better myself because I'm passionate about compassion just in general, just like helping one another, helping people, because I believe if we don't help one another, then where we are as a society, as a team, as an organization, you know. So those are, I was looking at them earlier, they're great. And of course, I love challenges really friendly, like getting uncomfortable, being uncomfortable. I think that's, as a leader, hey, you're going to be uncomfortable. You even having some conversations are uncomfortable with your leadership, talking about your performance, even with your subordinate, that may be uncomfortable. Me as a first line, hey, so come to my office. What do you think I'm not doing well at? And they're like looking at you crazy, like, no, no, no. Tell me, what do you think that I need to do better? What is your vision of me as a leader? I need to know. And then, hey, whatever they say is what they say. But you shouldn't hold that Marine accountable. Like, get mad at them. Oh, you're asking for constructive criticism. And I think that's a great skill I have is active listening and actually learning to do a better job at it.
Yeah, so I'll recap what you said because there were some more great points. Is when you talked about building relationships, and I agree wholeheartedly with you. When we went through, nobody really cared at that time. I think it was probably the early 2000s, mid 90s, where that relationship bond wasn't there. We were there just to do the mission, do what we were told. You had to suck it up, right? Embrace the suck is probably a good phrase that was used during that generation. Well, what happened was that generation that embraced it moved into the leaders in the mid 2010s, probably right around there. And then so the generation they were leading was getting the blunt end of that. They were getting the blunt end of those leaders being treated without care. So there was like this trickle down domino effect. Well, now this generation is in charge and they're like, I don't think this is working. We need to build relationships. So it's sort of like, we learn from our mistakes, right? It took 20 years, but we're learning like we can't lead like that. We have to have relationships. And that's a hard one. It is. And we've talked about relationships already before, but it's hard for supervisors and officers and senior NCOs to build those relationships with younger airmen because, like you said, that buddy close bond is a fine line. But I've also found I don't have to worry about that line if I'm doing it honestly, appropriately, wholeheartedly, without any, fraternization or anything like that. If I am just genuinely building a relationship with you, I can go build a relationship with an airman straight out of basic. I have airmen come over to my house as a major in the Air Force and have breakfast with me. Is that fraternization or anything like that? No, because I care for them. And there's, I'm not using it for any ill intent, or they're not only coming over for that. And so there's, I don't know, you can't think of that when you're trying to build those relationships.
Exactly. And I think the armed forces as a whole, I don't know, I think we're getting better at it because, like you said,
Yeah.
I want the young Marines to come know that I am their leader. I am their mentor. I'm not trying to lead them and granted there are some situations, and you and I both know, and we're not gonna mention, but there's some things that you see. I'm like, what was that person thinking?
Yeah.
What were they doing? No, we need to make sure these young individuals they're going to replace us someday.
Yeah.
They need to know what they need, what a true leader or mentor is going to be like toward them and their family, and then you move on. But it's just really important that fine line that we talked earlier about the buddy. There's a way you can go and talk to your peers, your subordinates outside of work. They know that you're major land. They know that, but it's more relaxing. I respect you, and then when we get to work, it's back. It's back. Yes, sir. Hey, so this is what we got to do. Same with me. So I'm not off work saying, hey, call me first sergeant. You know, even though they still do, out of
Yeah.
respect for who I am, and that's fine. But I'm not going to have them kicking back and call me Dominic and all this stuff when I
Yeah.
go to work. Hey, Dom, no, cut
Yeah.
that. No. Get back, as we say on the drill field. No, get back. No, you don't call me by my first name. Are you crazy? I'm a grown man. You know what I'm saying? So it's I think the Marines, and as a leader, they know when to draw the line with you because you're going to be the same way around them. You're never going to change. I've seen leaders like that. They get buddy with as a sergeant. I'm like, what's going on with this guy? He's trying to, hey, just go out to the club, and I'm not going out there with you, Master Sergeant. What's wrong with you? We're sergeants, man. Grow up, man. You're 47 years old. We're 24. You know what I'm saying? So this was back in the day. We're looking at this dude like, this dude's a clown. What are you we doing? You're a grown man. Go to your family. You know what I'm saying? So they know, like you said, that they're going to know what your intent is, what you're trying to do. You're trying to be cool and all this stuff. No, be who you are, be the leader you are. Come around when you have to. If you all need any help, I'm here for anybody need mentorship or whatever the case may be. Everybody's fine. All right, you have my number, and you take off and do what you need to do. That's what we do in the Marine Corps. You're not really hanging around, with your sergeants and your corporals. But here at the I, it's myself, my chief one officer, and it's my young Marines, staff sergeants, and corporals. That's all we have, and one gunny.
Yeah, you also talked about the leading by example is hard. And the reason that's my number one is because there's always somewhere I can lead by example. And you mentioned it where you're like, man, I feel like there's more I can do here, there's more I can do there. That's why I love the phrase, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So, for instance, if I'm like a bad father, right, but a good leader, am I leading by example in all areas? The way I do one thing is the way you do everything. And so I take that very harshly around my house and around workplace. Am I cleaning up after myself? Little things like that, that are leading by example. But it always allows me to have more to do, because just like you said, there's always areas to improve. And I think that's why that one is always tough for people because they're
Yeah,
like, yeah, I'm pretty good at leading over here. What about over my finances or on my spiritual side or on my friendship side? Like, am I leading by example over there? And are those on the same level? And then
yeah.
the other one you talked about was, feedback. Man, I love how you just talked about leaders should be able just to go and ask for feedback or something. In the Air Force, we're so set on this system of like a midterm feedback that you wait every 6 months and then like your yearly feedback, but you're just waiting for those times. But a leader, someone who's looking to progress, is going to go outside that window, take the time to go either to the supervisor on a Monday or whenever, like you said, like, hey, sir, I just need to know, like, is everything going good? Can I do something better? Or their peers, go to their peer level, because your peers are going to give you the best feedback because they sort of see you all the time. You should be able to go to them and be like, hey, man, did I do this right? Do I need to do anything better? Or ask those below you, what can I do better? That is a huge step in the right direction to become a better leader, but it's hard. It's hard to do that. I love how you talked about, you just can't be shy to ask for feedback. Is it going to be harsh? Is it going to be tough? Yes, but that's how we get better. And so that covers those four. Man, what leadership traits did you see on my list that stood out to you, or one that you have that I can add?
So I think you covered the basis of everything, but I
We
like a
did cover a
couple of
lot.
them. Yeah. So find your passion. Talk about those at the bottom, or you
Yep.
said leadership. Yeah, find your passion. I think that's important for us as leaders to know our purpose and our passion. Whatever you're passionate about, that's your purpose. People don't understand that. So if you're passionate about a certain, you're like, man, let me think about this. That's my purpose. And if you're good at that, you're probably going to be good at it because it's your passion. Like mine is mentorship, leadership. I love coaching. I love uplifting one another and encouraging my Marines. It doesn't matter. I love to encourage. Uh, Relationships through comfort and crisis. Uh, I'm a big relationship person. You have to build professional relationships. You can be a professional relationship in the workplace and outside, especially with the senior enlisted and senior officer relationship. You got to have that. You need to, especially at our level. And being slow to speak and quick to listen. Active listening is a trait that I believe most leaders do not have. And I'm making it uh, my aim to be an active listener because the more I listen and understand, then I can articulate and interpret what that person is saying to me, and I can tell them, "Is this what you mean?" That way, I can go and move forward and take that and help them with an issue or a leadership challenge. Right. So I think those are the ones that stuck out to me because in the Marine Corps, I've been learning that a lot lately about myself. If you're passionate about something, that's your purpose. Building relationships through more than likely, when we go to work, it's not just work. It's leadership challenges. It's things going on outside of work for our subordinates and for our peers. Like and sometimes for our leadership. And those are the things we have to be prepared for to discuss. And when you listen and you kind of observe, then you know where to move in your position.
Yeah, I love how you brought up the passion one because I want people to realize your MOS or your job doesn't have to be your passion. You can be passionate about something else to make it your purpose to be better in other areas. For instance, like my passion is really like health and wellness and fitness, help people get in better shape, fitness. But that purpose has made me a better officer, a better airman, a better aviator. Because once I'm sort of fulfilled on my passion and my purpose, my job, is better as well. So I want people to realize that, is it great if your job is your passion and purpose? Yes. In the military, does it happen a lot? No, because when we enlist, we don't get to choose our passion most likely for most of our jobs. You're either given a job based off of a score and you develop a like for it, but that's sometimes not always going to be your passion. And sometimes it's hard for people to be like, well, I need to be really good at my job, to do this. I want it to be my passion, and you can. But for those listening, for your passion to be your purpose, it doesn't have to be your specific job, but it can help you do better there too. And then the active listening. Man, listening is hard, especially as a leader, because there's a few reasons why. One, we're probably trying to think of a answer to your problem, because most likely people are going to be asking us to for a problem or a solution. So you're always, as a leader, when you're listening to someone, you're probably trying to think of a response. So that's taking away from your listening. If you're at a desk, right, you're actively probably looking at your computer. So you have to actively put down your laptop, put your phone off, give them your full attention to show you're listening. Are there people around you? Are you distracted? So sometimes you have to set yourself up to be actively listening. You have to be able to be hold on, let me just stop everything, verbalize it. If somebody comes in my office and I'm working, I may need to be hey man, let me just close my computer, look around, make sure no distraction. Then sort of tell them okay, you have my full attention. That way they know I'm actively listening. If I speak it, maybe I'll do it as well. If I'm not speaking that I'm actively listening, or I'm listening to them, maybe there's other thoughts in my mind. So active listening is tough.
It is, definitely.
All right. What book do you got, man? We're already at 55 minutes. That was fast.
I know, man. I'm having a great time with the conversation. I'm wow, and we just kept going. So I told you a little bit about, as you know, I'm a Christian, and
Yep.
God is my rock. My parents taught me from a young age, you can't do nothing without God. So this time of my life, I'm pursuing I want to be pursuing my master's in theology,
Oh,
and
nice.
I read a lot of books about apologetics and the why, about things. And this book is pretty interesting. It's by Norman L. Geiser. I think he was a Christian apologetics apologist, and it talks about, the problem of evil we have in the world, and a lot of things that people question, if there's truly a God, then why is all this evil taking place in the world? And I think it gives some good answers. I'm currently reading it right now, among some other things. But I really study, history, archaeological evidence of the Bible, things of that nature, and it really helps me with my leadership, actually, because the commandments for love your neighbor like yourself, love God with your heart. If I'm not doing that, then what am I doing? I can't pursue leadership and do the opposite of what I believe in. So I think if we understand, our basic moral values and principles of what we're taught, then we can just kind of make everything come together and show our subordinates love, our peers, our leadership. And really, people, they don't really think about that. They don't think about showing love. They want to step on the next man or the next airman, the next marine to get that promotion. So we've seen it. People talk about you, man, he's not the best this. I am. They're trying to undercut you and go to the sergeant major or go, to see like they're better than you. But among my reading, man, I really don't focus on that. I focus on my job, taking care of my personnel from the top down. And guys, done some amazing things in my life, and that's what I stick to.
That's good, man. The one I brought to the table, it's called Thinking Fast and Slow. So it's really cool that we were talking about listening and thinking, because they sort of go hand in hand. But I just started it. It's more about the processes of how we think and respond to questions and stuff like that. So the book starts off with there's two systems of thinking. System 1 and System 2 is how he breaks it down. System 1 is like my fast response to answers. 2 + 2 is 4. system 2 is my deliberate thought process of things. So if I'm given a tough question, my eyes dilate or pupillate, and then I'm thinking about a response. And so the book is designed to help people read it and understand when they are listening and thinking of a response, which system to respond with based off of the situation they're in. Do they have to respond quick to give a decision or an answer? Or I think most situations involve system 2, that long, deliberate thinking process. But sometimes it's hard to think and then respond, because we're either someone else is going to say something, or, the person might move on or think you're not listening. And so that's where I've tried to focus on, just like you're talking about with listening, I try to focus more on the thinking about what they're saying and then responding. That helps me sort of slow down my thought. Granted, I'm a super fast talker, and that's probably my crutch, as I'm thinking and talking so fast where, take that. And that's why, man, it's going to be super random. That's why I love going to third world countries, because they do things a lot slower than the Western culture or Americans, like when they eat dinner, they're not rushed to eat. They sit down, they talk, they get to know each other. When they have meetings or discussions, it's not directly to the point. It's sort of like this. You get to know each other for a little bit, and then you warm up, and then you talk. So their thinking is more deliberate. I think Americans, we're just really used to rushing things, rushing an answer, rushing a response. And so you lose a lot of that intent, and genuine response to things because you don't want to seem like you're waiting, I guess. But,
Yeah, the right now generation, we got cell phones, we can search for something on Google right now. I agree. Like, that's one thing that I want to do as a leader is listen better. That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yeah.
We listen, and then we'll be able to let that person know that we're listening, active listening, body language, repeating what they said. So this is what you mean?
Yeah.
And you taking notes. So that way it's genuine and the person knows that you're there to help them.
Yeah, and I think you hit another huge topic too. We probably talk a lot on as well is this, how answers are always at our fingertips. Where I almost want airmen to think about an answer more and develop it in their mind, come up with a solution and a problem, come back to me a little bit later, and then provide it instead of like a quick answer. I don't want them to go and then they go and find the answer online really quick, and they come back to me really fast. Like, hey, sir, I found how to do this. I'm like, oh, cool, sweet. How'd you do it? Oh, I just Googled or I found a YouTube video. I'm like, oh, man, good. Come on, man, you're killing me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, think about it. Use that brain. It's there for a reason.
Yeah, and that comes to like the whole imagination thing that kids are losing nowadays in this generation because they're watching granted, there's a lot of, this is another huge discussion, but pros and cons to videos and YouTube and all that. Because like my son, when he watches videos, man, he's watching videos on sports players that I didn't even know were like facts about him, so it's cool that he's learning, but then again, it's taking away some of his imagination too, when I talk about, hey, let's go play basketball, or like, hey, let's go learn this drill. He's like, oh, I just watched a video on Steph Curry doing this. I'm like, bro, no, like we need to go out and do it, like think about it. So
yes.
It's almost like you have to have these discussions with your younger generation to set the standard, like, hey guys, when I give you a task, I don't want you to look it up. I want you guys to sit down, group think, discuss it, write it on a whiteboard, build that sort of OODA loop process, of figuring it out, brainstorming it, discussing it, and then analyzing it instead of just, I don't want the fastest answer. Like is it going to save me time to give to my boss? Probably, but I want you guys to learn as well.
Agreed.
Do you have any last parting shots?
Brother, I just want to thank you. This was a great discussion. It went by a lot faster.
They always do.
We keep talking about leadership all day, man. I agree with everything you said. This is hopefully it's not our first one, but this is I think this is the right time for us to link up. Given to where my mindset is right now as far as leadership and taking a rest and readjusting to come back and be the best in the best position for your Marines or your airmen. So all the leaders out there, if you're getting burned out, take that leave. It's definitely going to help. It's okay to go on leave. You know what I'm saying? So once again, I appreciate you having me up, and just let me know when you want to do the next one on what topic.
Yeah, definitely we'll have another one. And do you guys have Big Map tomorrow morning too? Or
let me see.
I don't know if it goes to Friday. Does it?
No, we usually don't, but I can send you like a lot of the squadrons are actually reaching out, so they're planning ahead, a month ahead of time to bring like 25 plus personnel out. So if you
Yeah,
want to
let
come
me know. Keep me in the
watch
loop,
it,
and I'll try to pass it. I always just want to jump in on one too. Like get out there and grind for a day.
yeah.
Just get out there. So
Yeah, we do actually. If they want to come to our building, I believe our building's 2002, and talk to my instructor Charlotte Colleen and get the airmen signed up for the 10-bell syllabus. It really helps for the for promotion and get
yeah,
outside the jobs.
yeah. No, I appreciate everything you guys are doing at Dias. I'm glad. The past, I think probably about 2 or 3 years, we've built this relationship, and I think we're really starting to see the fruits of it. And that's one thing that's really hard too, is waiting for it to grow.
Yeah, it
Like I'm pretty
was.
sure
It
when
was.
you guys got here, you're like, man, I just want to do this and do that, and I want people to know we're here and work with us. But it took time. It took some hurdles, took some learning, and now that we've built a rapport with Gonzo and those airmen, it's starting to spread. It's compounding, and I love the compound interest of success. People don't realize that. You help one person, it might take a year to help one person, but then it's going to take 6 months to help two, 3 months to help four, and then it just compounds. And I think we're seeing the compound effect of this relationship.
We are. And Gonzo, I don't know if he told you, he got a name in achievement medal from the
Oh,
Marine Corps. From our battalion sergeant major and our battalion CO. They came down after our last course and presented it to him. And it was a great thing for me to see as a leader because he's been putting in the time and the effort as an
yeah,
airman. And, you know, I talked to my OIC about it. And he was like, you know what? Yeah, he has been around for quite a bit. And they came down the same day and said, you know what? That's good. Yeah. And they gave it to him. We got
that's
it
cool.
printed out and put in the system. And it was just great for me as a leader to see it. It felt good.
Nice. Well, all right. For those listening, thank you for listening. If you didn't take notes, I'll be mad. I got my page and a half of notes. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out for us, Dom. I'll get your info after. I'll leave it at the bottom. I got your book. We'll drop that in there. And then until next time, my man.
Brother, thank you. Have a great day.
Yes, sir. Just hang out just for a little bit after.